All right. Coaches and corporate renegades turned coaches, we are live. Come on in. I'll let you guys have a second while Hallie is tagging you guys and you guys are coming in today. Super, super excited for today's session. We have a special guest with us for this training. This is for those of you that I know are in this group, maybe feeling a little stressed out about how to create your coaching website. And we're talking about, maybe not knowing how to pull it together, wanting to have that elevated feel for your website and your coaching business so that you can effectively attract your ideal client avatar. So with that in mind, I have a very special guest today. I'm excited to introduce Jason Gracia, founder of Swiss Sites. He's created an all-in-one done-for-you coaching website business that's going to allow you to grow your coaching business on autopilot faster and easier than ever before. He's a dear friend of mine, brilliant at what he does, cares about his clients like no other. And he also has a very inspiring story. So today he is here to teach you guys the 5 steps to build a 6-figure coaching website. So with that, I'm going to allow Jason to take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Betty. I do this every time that we get to do these workshops, just to lavish you with praise, because you are one of the best in the business, and it's a true honor to ever come before you and your clients, because you're so good at what you do. I could talk for hours about the impact you've made, but I will share my screen and then we can get started. So welcome everybody to 5 steps to a 6-figure website. Like Betty said, when it comes to the website, there's just something about the website that can be overwhelming, stressful, so confusing. You hear all this conflicting advice, and then people spend thousands of dollars on a website that does nothing for them. So this whole world of websites, I get it. I get why people put off their coaching business for months, sometimes years, because of this fear of the website. So today, I want to try and break that all down for you and show you what actually matters, what really makes a website tick, so that you can do that in your own. So before we jump in, who are you talking to? Like Betty said, my name is Jason Gracia, and there on the right, see why I do everything I do. Megan, my wife, and then Cora, whose little veins in her neck are exploding with laughter. She's an intense young lady. And then little Penny, our little miracle baby. So that is who I do it for, the family. So I'm a husband, dad, but also an entrepreneur. And that's kind of where our story starts, because 21 years ago now, I started a website. So I went to school for marketing. I grew up with business in my blood. So my dad was a marketing consultant. I was reading Zig Ziglar and Jay Abraham and Tony Robbins books when I was like 12 years old. So I've always loved business so much. And so I went to school for marketing, and right out of marketing, I heard about this thing called a website, or right out of college. And so it was 2001, April 1st. And I thought, you know what? I love technology. I love design. I love computers, but I love business. So why don't I just, for fun, try and put this thing together? And so I built my first website, hand code. There was no WordPress. There was nothing like that. I was just hand coded. And I chose motivation because I've always been fascinated and really passionate about the topic of motivation, then the difference between people who think about what they want to do and the people who do it. So I created motivation123.com. And at first it was terrible. Like what you're seeing here, this is kind of a snazzier version. This was down the road. At first, I can't show you guys the original. It was god awful, but I loved it. It didn't matter that no one knew this website, no one visited, and it looked terrible. I just fell in love with it. I love the idea. I still do today, that I can press a button on my keyboard and put a letter on a screen, and someone across the globe can see it instantly. That's magic. And so I was all in. And at first nothing happened, right? But then slowly I started to figure it out. Oh, if I put a button here, more people do this thing. If I put this page here, if I do all of these steps in this order, things improve. And I love that. If I printed out the spreadsheets I had back then, it would cover the entire house. I just tracked everything, and eventually it paid off. My little website, it became the #1 motivation website in the entire world. And that brought in millions of visitors, over 135,000 subscribers to my community. Then with all of these people and all this traffic, I created a business. So I wrote books. So I'm an author in personal development. I created courses, did coaching, consulting, and brought in, over the course of time, 29,000 customers and made over $1 million. Everything was great, right? So I've got this business. I am loving it. I get to spend my days helping people improve their lives. Nothing could be better. And then June 9th, 2016, that is when I got the call from the doctor. Unexpected, as I think it is with every single person who gets this call, but my doctor sent me a message, said, call me at home as soon as you can. That is never a good message to receive after you go in for tests. And it turned out that I had cancer. So married a little over a year, a brand new daughter. It was like life was on the up and up, and then everything came crashing down. So in this process, trying to deal with cancer and treatment and surgery, I walked away from the business. So I walked away from Motivation 123. I lost whatever it was that drove me to do that business. I wasn't there anymore. I didn't know if I would be here in 6 months, so I just didn't see the point of putting in so much time and effort into something. Now, that was 5 years ago, right? So far, so good. All good there, but it really changed my life drastically. So I walk away. The medical bills, if anyone has been through this, which I'm sure you guys either have or you know someone who has, but the medical bills are no joke, even with insurance. Instantly, our savings was wiped out. We were faced with having to sell the house to be able to pay our bills. Nothing that I ever expected. My childhood, I grew up on welfare. I had a single mom, 3 kids, worked 2 jobs. And I always told myself I would never put my kids in that position. Now, my mom did an amazing job. So she, my hero. But I always told myself when it's my turn, I have to make sure that I don't put my kids in this situation. And that's where we were. That is exactly where we were, struggling with money, not sure what to do. And then I got an email from South Carolina. Out of the blue, I got an email from Bill Simmons. And what Bill said was very simple. He said, do you build websites? Now, up until this point, and it was a long time of me building websites, but always for myself. I built businesses and it was always for me. I built Motivation 123's website for me. I had never thought about doing it as a business for other people. So no, I did not build websites for others. It was my little secret skill I had. But in that situation, dad, husband, feeling like I'm failing, I wrote back and I said what any parent would say. I said, of course we build websites. And it turns out that Bill was a coach. And so this is really where the seed was planted for what we have today at Swift. And so I already knew websites, but I wanted to dive into the coaching website. I wanted to just knock this out of the park for Bill. And so I dove in deep on coaching websites. I realized quickly a website is not a coaching website. Saying you have a website is like saying you have a car. Well, there are many different makes and models of cars, and there are many different uses of a car. If you want to win a race, you get a race car. And so that's what I was going to build for Bill. So I learned everything that he needed, everything a coach needed, every page they needed, every section, segment they needed, all the functionalities they needed. I built this website. I handed it over. He loved it. And he said, this is going to help me help so many more people. And that was it. That's when I got my new purpose, because what I realized was I didn't have to be the face on the book cover. I didn't have to be the one always in front. I could be the guy who is a springboard for all of these other incredible coaches who go on to change lives. And I could still play a small part in all of the success and the results to come in all of those lives. And that was it. That gave me what I needed. And so I took everything that I'd learned over, at that point, 15 years, now 20 years, and I put it into Swift so that I could build these websites so coaches didn't have to worry about it. Everything was taken care of for them. All the pages they needed, the functionality, the mindset, which is the biggest part, how to think about a website in a brand new way that helped them grow their business. That was the key. Let's help coaches grow their business, and let's help coaches help more people. And so I dove in, I launched Swift. First, I had one client, then I had two, then 20, then 40, 50, 60, 100, 200. It exploded. And so we worked with many different coaches through many different specialties. And we worked with coaches who trained with some of the biggest coach training schools in the country. And of course, Betty is on there. A lot of incredible clients of Betty have come through us, but also IPEC and John Maxwell, Tony Robbins. So it's just been a joy. It's been a true adventure since then. So 15 years of learning the idea and the world and the universe of websites. Then cancer said, hey, we got a new plan for you. And after I beat cancer, I then launched Swift to help coaches do the thing they love to do. What I like to tell coaches is you got into this to make a difference. You didn't get into this to make a website. And that's the key. The website can pull people off track. And so we take care of that track for you. And so you can focus on what you do best. So that is my story. That is what I do today, why I do it. I'm passionate about helping coaches make their difference. And now we're going to dive in, and I'm going to share with you some of the most important elements of the coaching website to make it work. Because most coaching websites don't work because most coaching websites and most websites are passive brochures. So this is the first thing I want you guys to understand. Websites are not created equal. The fact that people can go to Squarespace and push a button and have a website, that doesn't mean that they have a website that works. Because what we're looking at is that pretty picture. But what we have to understand is there is so much that has to go on behind the scenes to make that pretty picture convert. That's the key. So most websites you go to, they are passive brochures. This shocked me when I first started because I would meet the people behind these sites that I assumed were just killing it online because of how their website looked. The brochure was gorgeous. Then you talk to them and you realize they haven't made a single sale. And that's because it's two different worlds. A pretty brochure, that doesn't mean it's going to build your business. So what you want is an automated machine. That's the key there, right? Not brochure. We have to build you a machine that works. Yes, it has to look good, and that's part of the machine. Design matters. Amateur design, we think amateur coach. So it does matter. You need to have a professional, premium looking website. But the key is how the mechanics work. It's got to be a machine that turns visitors into clients. And there's a way to do that. And we're going to go through those steps right now. So step number 1, MVP, which is your most valuable page. Now, this isn't the case for every single coach, but for the majority of coaches, the most important page on their website is the discovery call landing page. This is their booking page. So you can see a snapshot of it here, but it is where we have our calendar where people can book a call. Now, I'll say right away, yes, there are different strategies here where it's a paid intro session or it is a free discovery call. What I found personally is that if you have a free call, and it's not a free coaching session, there's just no way you can do an effective free coaching session with a stranger in 35, 45 minutes. What this is a discovery call. And so it is a strategy session where you bring people through a certain process where you're delivering value, but that value leads to a conversation about your coaching program. So for most coaches, if you have something like that free, you're going to have a wider door open to let people in. Now, there are things you can do with your calendar to vet people. Of course, you can't be on the phone all day. So what you want to do is have an application connected with your calendar. With Calendly, with Acuity, things like that, you have questions that you can ask. It's very easy to put in vetting questions so that they have to answer things the way you want before you actually hold that call. But this is the key. This is where it all starts. Because to get clients, it's all about conversations. And this page is the conversation starter. This is the vehicle that brings you those conversations. Now, a few quick tips. You want to make sure it's a landing page. So you want to make sure on your website you have a landing page, which means there is no logo. There are no other menu links. There's no distraction. Think of a link as an exit. Now, when I build landing pages for our clients, some will raise their hand and say, whoa, 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 where's all the other links? Where's all the other information? And I get it, right? That would be my first question too. But what you learn is that a link is an exit. You're driving down the freeway and you want to get people to the destination, which is booking a call. But every link is like a highway sign that's saying exit here, exit here, exit here, exit here. What you want is for people to have one decision point. I am here. I'm either going to do this or I'm not, but nothing else. That is how you increase your conversion. So landing pages increase conversions. All that means is a page without any other options increases the number of people who take that action that we want. The other thing you need headline, body copy, and bullet points. What that means is you need words. A lot of coaches make the mistake of simply sending people to a calendar. What you have to realize is when you're sending someone to a calendar to book that intro call with you, it is like asking a stranger who doesn't know you to stick their hand into a black box. They have no idea what is going to go on. They don't know what you're going to talk about, what you're going to do. So anxiety is through the roof. So if you just send people to a calendar, most people will not book because there is no context to it. They don't know what's going to happen. So what you want is your calendar embedded in your site, which just means you add it to a web page and it has words that describe what's going to happen on this call. You have to sell the call. That's the key. Embedded calendar, like I just said, and then testimonials. So this is another aspect that's really going to increase because even if you have words, people will still be skeptical and they're still going to be anxious. And so what you need is testimonials of people who've either worked with you or been through your discovery call. So on my calendar page, I have a horde of testimonials because people need to know that people like me have spoken to you and it was a great experience. That gets them excited. That gets them looking forward to and motivated to book that call. But it also gets them to, of course, you guys in marketing, if you know about online marketing and offline, know, like, and trust, right? People have to know, like, and trust you to be able to take an action. And that's what those testimonials do. So this is our MVP. The most important page on a coaching website is your booking page. And because of that, every other page now takes on new meaning. Every other page is a supporting page. Now, if you go to most coaching websites and most websites, it is a random assortment of pages underneath the same domain name. They're all doing their own thing. It's like being in a room where people are speaking 10 different languages. It can be confusing and it can be disorienting and it can lower conversions. So what we want to do is hub and spoke. So hub, spoke of a wheel, you send it over. See that fancy graphic work? That's why I get paid the big bucks. What you want is to think of your website as a hub and spoke model. Your MVP is the hub, so it's the center, and then everything else is a spoke. So your homepage, your about page, your posts, your contact page, your services page, your praise page, all spokes. And so what that means is the new way to think about this is that your homepage has one job: to get people to the MVP. Your services page has one job: to get people to the MVP. Everyone thinks you're going to sell coaching on your services page. It's not true. What you sell is the call. On every page, you're selling the call. You sell coaching on the call, but the website has to sell that call. And so that's how you should think about your website. It's an integrated system of pages that says things in a certain way. The pages are structured in a certain way to get people to click and go to your MVP. So that is how you start building this machine. Instead of a pretty brochure, you can see that it becomes a machine where it doesn't matter which page people come through. Like I say to the people that work with us, a website is a house of many doors. You think everyone's going to come through the homepage and slowly go through what we have, but that is not true. People are going to come through all different pages, and it doesn't matter on the right type of website which page they come through. They're going to be sent to the same destination, the MVP. Now, the truth of the matter is most visitors who come do your website the first time will not book a call. And that is just the nature of online marketing. The people who visit your site that first time, they're not going to take our most desired action. That is why the third key is follow-up. It's up to 95% of people who are not ready to take that major step forward. So we have to have our websites, this machine, crafted in a way that allows us to follow up with people. And the mistake most coaches make has to do with the sales cycle. So this might get it's a little technical, but it's very important to understand. If you're trying to become a successful coach, if you're trying to sell coaching, you need to understand that people go through stages before they're ready to say yes. Problem aware. I have a problem. Solution aware. And there's solutions out there. Product aware. You have a solution. Most aware. You have a solution, and it's the one I want. Now, most brochure websites, even though 95% of our visitors are in these early stages, they don't talk about it at all. If you have a brochure website, which most coaches do, most people do, you're talking most aware. You're talking about modalities and modules of coaching. You're talking about the inner workings of your coaching program. What you're doing is you're speaking a language 95% of your visitors do not understand. And that's what brochure websites do, and that's why brochure websites fail. Because people are too early in that process, and you're ignoring all of their needs and wants, and you're speaking to the sliver of people who are ready for most aware. But with a machine, you bring people through problem aware, solution aware, product aware, most aware. That's how you have a website that can take the majority of visitors and guide them through a process so that more people are ready in the end to hire you. So if you have a website, like most coaching websites, you send 100 people to that website, maybe one reaches out because that website is crafted to speak one tiny language for the most aware. But if you have a website that is crafted to speak all the languages, and you have a follow-up process where you can bring people through, and as you can see, the envelopes, email marketing, that is the key. You want to follow up with people by email. And for people who say, does email really work? I want to reframe how you think about email. It's not that people will read every email you send. They're going to delete almost every email that you send, but you're going to be showing up in their inbox as they delete you. And then that day that they have the problem that you solve, that's when they open the email. And that could be 3 weeks later. It could be 3 months later. It could be 3 years later. But that is the power of email. It shows up when they're ready. Now, my first $1 million that I made with Motivation 123, 900,000 came from email. So if I didn't have a way to follow up with people and guide them through problem, solution, product, and most aware, I would have made $100,000. Instead, I made $1 million. That's the power of following up, because you're there when they're ready. And you need a machine to do that. But the way to get follow-up going, it's with a lead generator. This is the key. So key number 4, a lead generator. Because if you still have, and I still see this even today, if you have signed up for my super awesome newsletter, well, chances are you'll get 0% conversion. And some people get that and they say, oh, email doesn't work. It's not that email doesn't work. It's that you're not working email correctly. So you have to get people who visit your website, you've got to get their email so you can follow up with them and guide them through that sales cycle so they're ready to hire you. But you can't do it by asking for their email. What you need to do is think free sample at a grocery store, the good old lead generator. So just like a free sample at a grocery store, this is something very specific. You're not saying come into the store and you can try everything, which means you're not saying in this free giveaway on your website, it's going to be a book. It's going to be a 25 video course. It's not going to be everything that you can give them all at once, because no one will read the thing or go through the thing. And if they do, they're going to conclude that they don't need a coach because you just gave them all the answers. So what you want to do is move people an inch forward. Just show them that you can help them. What they say in marketing, if you can help someone make $1, they will pay you thousands of dollars to make the next one. Because as soon as you can show someone that you can help them, they are all in. And that's what your free sample does. It gets their email address so you can follow up with them. And then it shows them that you can help by moving them just an inch, just a small step forward. Because if you give them everything, like again, they won't go through it. And if they do, well, you worked yourself out of a client. So you want to make sure you come up with a giveaway on your website. We always do at Swift a checklist or a cheat sheet. 5 simple tips to do XYZ. They are the most popular. They are the easiest to do. And they're easy to create so you can test them against each other, which is always good. Having multiple lead generators, you can see which one works the best. But the key to making this work is that it leads to a pitch for your MVP. So what you want to do is when you create your lead generator, or if you have one already, you want to add a final page, which talks all about the next step. So you say something to the effect of, if you enjoyed these tips, if they helped you make progress, if they helped you do XYZ, for instance, in this example, 5 tips for finding your next career, if they helped you move just one step forward to finding that dream career, well, then I have the best next step for you, which is you can actually get on the call with me personally, free of charge, and we can do XYZ, and then a button that links to your booking page. Now, the power of this is that it takes people who left your website and it brings them back, which is, it's huge to be able to do that. You have a guide on their website, on their desktop or their phone that has a button that brings them back to the website where they can book that call. You're bringing people back. So that's the key. So the mechanics of this website, as a quick review before we get to the 5th key, you want to have an MVP, which is your calendar embedded into a page with words that describe what's going to happen. It sells the call. And then you want to have every page on your website support that booking page. And by support, what I mean there is you want to structure that page, say it's your about page, in a way that leads to clicking a button that goes and books that call. So you tell your about story in a way that leads people to taking the next step, click here to book that call. So you do that with every page of your website. Then you have to have a way to follow up with people so that when they're ready, they'll book that call, because most first-time visitors will not book. But that doesn't mean that they won't eventually become clients. And the way to get that email address so you can follow up is with what we're looking at here, a lead generator, a free sample that you give away that has simple tips to help your target market move an inch forward. Now, if you have that, that's your machine. That is what I built personally to rebuild my life. After cancer, I built the exact type of website I just shared with you, changed everything, revolutionized my life in every way. But how do we package it? How do we put that final wrapping on it that up-levels our brand, that makes us look premium and professional? Well, that is the 5th key, and that's the design essentials. So what I'm going to share with you here is how you can take an amateur or a brand new website and make it look premium. It starts with color. The mistake people make is they use too many colors because they almost look at like my daughter. My daughter Cora loves to paint. And so she starts with 1 and 2 and it looks good, but then she wants 3 and 4 and oh, she loves this 5th color. Oh, and 6, and let's mix these 3 together. You guys, when it comes to branding, you have to be minimalist. You've got to stay consistent with just 2 to 3 core colors so it actually creates a brand message. If you have every color under the rainbow, then you don't really have a color scheme. And so when it comes to colors, I want you to pick 2 to 3, and they have to harmonize, which means they've got to work together. Now, I'm going to give you a resource in just a second where you can make sure they do that, but that's the key. Because as silly, as simple, as painful as it is, and as it sounds, all it takes is one tiny mistake on your website and people will leave. Because people are busy, they're looking at 10,000 things. We need your website to be crafted in a way that has no mistakes in it. And believe it or not, having colors that do not work together, that is enough for someone to step back and go, well, this does not look good, and they leave. That's how it works. Breaks our hearts, right? They have people do, they put on glasses and they have eye tracking studies. And that, so they see where people look and they see how people act on a website. And so people will they will pour their heart and soul into a page. And then when people actually go through it, they notice this little flaw and they're gone. Someone spent 1,000 hours on this page. Someone gives them 5 seconds of consideration. That's how it works. So you got to make sure that your colors harmonize and that you stay consistent. That's the key. So I want you guys to take 2 to 3 colors, make sure they harmonize, and then stay consistent. And I want you to stay consistent everywhere. Website, business cards, letterhead, if people even do that anymore, social media, email, whatever you do, make sure that you have a consistent color scheme. Now, some places to go, canva.com/colors. That is where you can get pre-made beautiful color schemes. You can also go to colors.com or .co. That's where I go to find incredible color schemes. And just go to Google and you can Google business coach, corporate business coach color scheme, life coach color scheme, health coach color scheme. And you're going to find resources that help give you the color schemes that fit in that genre and that harmonize. There's a science to it. I'm sure most of you guys know that if you're listening, that when it comes to colors, there is definitely a science to what colors, because of the color wheel, what colors go together well and which don't. So we can't just go with our gut. You want to go with the science. And here you can get pre-made color schemes that you know work. So you got color covered. Next, fonts. It's the same story. You got to stay consistent. As soon as you go to a website that has more than 2 fonts, you think amateur, because it just looks like a mash and a mix of everything they threw at it. What you want is professional and elegant. What you want is premium, which means you pick 2 fonts, one for your headlines, one for your body copy. And body copy is simply the paragraphs. You pick one for each and you stick with it. You have to make sure they harmonize because, believe it or not, just like color, certain fonts work with other fonts. It doesn't mean they have to be the same type of font. So if you guys know about fonts, you might have heard of serif and sans serif. Serif are those little, like if you look at the "if I was influenced by," each of those letters would have just a little elegant swirl on the end. That's a serif, right? Just a little, an extra element that's on the ends of the letters. That doesn't mean you have to use serif and then serif body. You can mix and match, but in the world of fonts, certain fonts work together, certain don't. And so you want to make sure that they harmonize and that you stay consistent. Now, this is a little harder because when you're on social, you're going to use probably Arial because that's the font that they use. It's hard to bring your fonts to social, but in your website and in your communication, there you can. And so even with, for instance, that lead generator you make. So when you're in Canva making your lead generator, you want to stay consistent with your fonts and colors there. Now, where do we get fonts? You can go to fontpair.co, which is a great site that has Google Fonts. Now, Google Fonts, this is a little technical, but I like to share it just in case someone is at this level. A Google font is a Google approved font. And what that means is if you have a Google font on your website, it's going to run smoothly. If you have a custom font that you have to load into your website to work, and some of you, if you're listening to this, you might have no idea what I'm talking about. That's okay. If anyone does know, it's important to understand if you have a font that you have to load in your website, well, that actually slows the page down because that is more work that site, that page has to do to load the fonts. Whereas Google Fonts load instantly. So fontpair.co is a great place to go to find font pairs that are not going to slow down your website. And of course, fonts.google.com, they're going to give you those fonts as well. And Google has over 1,000 fonts. So you're going to find what you need at Google to make your website run. All of our client sites use Google Fonts, and there's, with 1,000 fonts, there's an endless combination that you can do. So fonts, 2 fonts, make sure they harmonize, stay consistent. Now, next up is images. This probably makes the biggest difference when it comes to your website because images really do matter. If you have amateur images, people will conclude instantly you're an amateur coach and leave. You have to have premium images, but you also have to have images that are, we have to break this, we have to break this habit. So many coaches put sunsets, stacked rocks, and I get it. Now, less so with Betty's World, which is great because that's more where I live, corporate, business. But if you're a life coach, we have to get away from this because this does no good for us. What you want to do is you want to use images that actually drive the conversation forward, that actually pull someone into our world. If someone sees stacked rocks, they will not be more likely to hire you as their coach. But if you get a photo shoot and we can have a professional image of you, the coach, and then we can lay graphics or lay words and buttons on top, well, now we've got something that looks premium, professional, and you're selling you. You're selling you as the coach because you are the product. You are the service. And if you have a professional photo shoot, it makes a difference. I wish it didn't. I wish I could tell you guys you don't have to invest in any of these things for it to work. But as Betty has probably mentioned many times in working with her, sometimes you have to invest in your business because the return is worth it. It's worth it to get a professional photo shoot because if you get 1 or 2 more clients, it more than pays for itself. Now, you don't have to do a photo shoot and you can still have a premium image with stock images. So what you want to do here is use images on your website that represent the ideal that your client is looking for or your future client. So for instance, if this was a parenting coach and we're saying have a great relationship with your daughter, you could use a stock image. If you don't have a professional photo shoot, you can use a premium stock image. And then you can just make it with the words in the button, it looks just as good. The key though is to use premium images. Now, where do you get those? Pexels.com is one of the most popular. Unsplash.com is also, and that's where you can get free images, Pexels and Unsplash. Now, if you want to find something more specific and you just can't find it at Pexels or Unsplash, you can go to something like iStockPhoto where you'll pay for images, but then you know that you're going to get premium and you'll know you're not going to have images that every other coaching website has. So you do have options there, but the key, you got to use professional premium images, high resolution, that look great. When people come into our world, sometimes they've taken pictures with their cell phone. Sometimes they've taken small images and then they just stretch them out. That's enough. Just like I said before, it does not take a lot to make someone leave your website. And sometimes that's enough. So I want you guys to make sure if you have a website, review it. If you're just getting started, make sure you use premium images, high resolution images that look great on desktop, laptop, and phone. That alone can help you get more clients. And then finally, layouts, how the thing looks. This is how most coaching websites look. It is, it's like everyone took every word that they've ever learned and they try to put it into one paragraph. On average, 78% of words are ignored on a coaching website. And that's because they write too much. Coaches have so much to share. But what we have to realize is we're entrepreneurs and we have to do what works, not just what comes out of our heart. Because even if you have so much to share on your website, if you do it, you won't get clients. You won't make your difference. And that's really the key in the end, right? We want this website to help us get clients so we can change lives. So as much as you want to write novels, we have to take a step back and think about how it actually works. How do I actually make all of my words that I want to get through? How do I give them a shot? And how do I write the words in a way that gets them read? So the rule, low calorie. Every time you throw a wall of text at someone, they think work and they leave. Less is more. Less is more. That is the key. You have to write less, but you've got to make sure it's the right words. And so you only focus on the keys that they have to understand at that point to want to book that call. If you're trying to educate them about the entire coaching industry, what coaching is, why it works, modules, modalities, you will lose people. They will not read it. It's homework. So what you have to do is cut away everything that they don't need to know and leave behind what they need to know to be excited about booking a call with you. And when you do that, you're going to give it room to breathe. Our eyes need room to breathe. So when I look at this, when you guys look at this, we do not want to read this. This is like textbook. We're not going to read it. Most people will not ever read the words on your website if it looks like this. But if you do low calorie, if you cut, if you provide less words, fewer words, if you're a grammar nerd like me, and if you give it room to breathe, well, then you have something like this. And this is what people will read. Look at that difference. No one wants to read this. Same ideas, same keywords. This will get read. And so that's the key. And you can see in, here's a mock-up of our websites. You can see there are not a lot of words because you don't need them. You just need it to be the right words. And so you see small paragraphs, call outs, bullet points. That's a website that gets read. So you really can build this six-figure coaching business with a website that works. It is an incredible tool that helps you. And of course, if you listen to every single thing that Betty says, because she's a genius. But again, just to quickly review those 5 keys. You need an MVP. So you need that booking page where people can go to your site and book a call with you. Then you need every other page to support that booking page. Then you need a way to follow up with people over time because they won't be ready always on that first visit, but they will be ready down the road. And how do you do that? It's with email. And how do you get that email address? Key number 4, have a freebie. Have a lead generator you put on your website where you give it away in exchange for an email address. That will build the machine. And then you package the machine in that beautiful design with 2 to 3 colors, 2 to 3 fonts, and we stay consistent. Images that up-level your entire brand, and then layouts that give people room to breathe so they actually read what you have to say. So that is the key to building that machine. That is how I changed my life. That is how our clients have brought people into their world and turned visitors into clients by having a machine instead of a pretty brochure. Now, quickly, that is what we do at swiftsites.com. So if anyone's listening to this and thinking, okay, this sounds great, I need this, I don't have a website, or I have just an amateur website, it's not doing what I want, we do offer this. And what we build is we build all the pages for you. We build your custom giveaway for you. We set up your email marketing for you, your scheduling for you. We even set up all the tracking analytics you need because if you're going to run a business, you need to know your numbers. We, of course, include all the training and support you need. And anyone who mentions Betty, you get $1,000 discount off our service. Now, this was not, this is just to let people know that if you want this type of machine to help you grow your business, but you don't want to do it, there is a solution out there for you. But if you can tackle this by yourself and do it the right way, those are the 5 keys that I want you to follow to turn your website into a machine. So I thank you guys so much. I love nothing more than talking websites and helping coaches, especially when it is for Betty, because Betty is one of my favorite people in the universe, and so are all the people in her audience. So thank you guys so much. I will now stop sharing, and I can answer any questions that you guys might have about what we covered.
So awesome. As always, I feel like every time I listen to you talk, Jason, there's something new I pick up on. I'm like, yes, that font website, or yes, that design element. So it's always really a pleasure to have you here with us and joining us. So here, I'm just going to read a couple of the comments here. I haven't seen any questions come through yet, but guys, this is your chance. If you have any website questions, this is your chance to ask the expert. Laura shares, she's here live, amazing information. We've got Clive here with us live. Amanda's watching. Donna's joining us here live. You might have just covered just about everything because I don't see any burning questions. But if you guys are like me, I'm a processor, and this was a lot of juicy information. So you might need to process and then come back to it. If people want to reach out to you, Jason, tell us again what's the best way for them to learn more, get a hold of you, etc.
So they just need to go to swiftsites.com. So SWYFT and then SITES.com. They can learn more about our service. And as I just taught, there is a big old button where they can book a call to talk with me directly about anything they need. Now, I'll tell you a few questions that do often come up when we cover these things. One of the biggest is where people have multiple ideas that they would like to share. So some people ask, well, can I have 3 different lead generators on my site? Can I have 5 different offers on my site? To make a website work, focus is key. And so that's one of the things that we see people struggle with a lot. They come with so much. So what I tell them is just think of what you're doing as a season. So this season of my website, I'm going to focus on this offer, and I'm going to have this one lead generator to build my list. If you throw too much on the website, you'll run into those same issues where people are overwhelmed, distracted, and they'll leave. So you really do want to focus, but it's not forever. You're not trapped. Some people feel like when my website published, it goes live, that's it. That's my website for the next 50 years, and I can't change anything. It is just a season. So you don't have to be afraid of the website, and you don't have to be afraid of being trapped, but you do want to have focus. You can always change that focus, and you can shift. But don't be afraid to choose one thing that you do and make it very clear on your website.
100%. Yeah, I always say if you confuse them, you lose them. So
that's exactly right.
It's just right in so many different ways. So clarity is so key when they come to your website. That's why I love the design that you do, where people can immediately see what type of coach you are, who you help, what you help them with. So yeah, absolutely agree. And from a business standpoint too, I like to keep, the packages my clients offer simple and not have a bazillion different offerings. So absolutely love everything that you said about focus on the website, so people feel like, yes, I get it, I get what this person offers, and then they can make that decision if they want to book the call or not.
Right, because so I'll just mention, when you say that, what people imagine is that someone's coming to your website and the kids are in bed and there's a fire crackling and they have a glass of wine, and they'll slowly go through every word of your website. And then that way you can share a ton of different ideas. You can be cute, you can be clever, because they're slowly going through it. When in reality, it's Monday morning, they're late for work, they just spilled coffee, kids are screaming, it's chaos in our world, and they give you 3 seconds. That is why clarity is key. So what Betty's saying, it is so right. You have to let people know, here's what I do, why I do it, here's what to do next. You can't get cute, you can't get clever, and you can't overwhelm with information. You've got to focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, clarity over cute all day long.
Yes,
I'm with you there. Yeah, so we're getting a couple more comments here. Donna says, that is a great tip. Think of things like a season of the year. Absolutely, Donna. Yeah, I love that as well. Laura says, less is more. Elizabeth is sharing great actionable tips. Donna says, there was so much in there, it's a whole page of notes. So I am so glad you guys found this valuable. Jason, anything else to share before we hop off for today?
Well, I think the biggest thing that, especially with your people, because I want to serve everyone, of course, but Betty, you're just so special to me that I really want to make sure anyone listening, that you think the biggest mindset shift you have to make is that your website is not a work of art. And that is what a lot of people think of when they think of website. They think of pretty picture. You need to think of your website as a business machine. That's the key. There's an old story with IBM. So a long time ago, IBM salesmen, and they wore certain clothes and they looked a certain way. And people always wondered, like, why do they do that? Some kind of cult? No, it's because they did studies to find out that this color tie and this white shirt and this suit sold more. So they didn't look at their clothes as a work of art, as design and fashion and style. They looked at it as part of the business machine. What converts? And that's what you want to do, because so many coaches fail because they get in their own way, because they are trying to express everything inside them on their website, because they look at the website as, this is my work of art. Yeah. And what you have to realize, it's a business machine. It helps you. If you want, create a new website that's just for you, and you can play with it, and you can do all the colors you want and all the fonts you want. That's your playground. But when it comes to your coaching business, it is a business, and you have to look at it as a business machine. So you have to treat it with the respect that it requires to work. Pretty brochures do not work, but business machines do. And so that's the biggest mindset shift. Your website is a business machine. It's an asset to help you get clients, not just a work of art.
Yeah, so true. And, there's the way that you put together websites, it is very elevated in terms of branding and feel and style. So it's not like we're ditching the whole, like, oh, it doesn't look pretty. It's very branded, but it's focused and it's smart the way that it's laid out. So there is a way to have elevated branding, but focus and strategy as far as how you're laying it out. So that's what I love about what you guys do.
Well, thank you so much. I still can't believe that I get to do this for a living. I'm sure most coaches and we like, this is our life, and there's nothing better on earth than to be able to share
For
this with
real.
people. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, always a pleasure having you here with us, Jason. So I hope you guys check out Swift Sites. Don't stress out about your website. There's somebody out there, an expert that we have right here with us who's already done it before. You guys don't have to reinvent the wheel. So use your resources, so that you can focus your time coaching and doing what you do best. So thank you so much, Jason, for joining us today. Thank you for everybody who joined us today as well. And I hope you guys learned a lot. So I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening.
Bye, guys.